In the south of colonial India, along the banks of the Krishna River, a frail and ordinary-looking boy was born in 1895. His name, Jiddu Krishnamurti. He was the eighth child of a traditional Brahmin family marked by spiritual values, strict discipline, and deep devotion. Nothing in his appearance or childish behavior suggested the future that awaited him. Fragile, shy, and often described as distracted, Krishnamurti was a mediocre student, struggling with concentration and frequently absent from school. Life seemed to be preparing him for anonymity, but fate, or what many would call karma, was about to transform this boy into a global symbol of spiritual search and also of its rejection. In 1909, when Krishnamurti was just 14 years old, his father, a former civil servant, sought help from the Theosophical Society in Madras, a spiritual movement blending Eastern traditions with Western esoteric occultism. There, the boy's destiny would intersect with that of Charles Webster Leadbeater, one of the most influential leaders of the society. Upon seeing young Krishnamurti on the beach at Adyar, Leadbeater reportedly declared with near mystical certainty, "This is the vehicle of the world teacher." He believed the boy harbored the soul of a future messiah, a pure being destined to lead humanity into a new era of enlightenment. From that moment on, Krishnamurti and his brother Nityananda were taken under the wing of the theosophical elite. Educated in England, molded with discipline, taught languages, philosophy, arts, and science, they were groomed to be spiritual leaders. But a greater plan was unfolding. The Theosophical Society believed that through Krishnamurti, a higher being, the so-called world teacher, a kind of reincarnated Christ, would manifest, free of religious dogma. To support this mission, they created the Order of the Star in the East, an international organization with thousands of members. Its sole purpose, to prepare the spiritual and human ground for the arrival of the world teacher. And Krishnamurti, still a teenager, stood at the very center of that storm. Imagine being declared the savior of humanity, chosen by invisible masters, taken before massive crowds, revered as a new Buddha. It was the promise of a throne. Not political but spiritual, symbolic, and perhaps heavier than any crown. Yet within that chosen one, a quiet unease began to grow. Gradually, amid the ceremonial speeches and mystical red carpets, Krishnamurti began to question, not the intentions of those around him, many of them were sincere, but the very structure he had been placed within. Something felt wrong. How could truth, the very essence of liberation, be trapped inside institutions or bound to cults, hierarchies, sacred rituals? Yes, he was adored, but he was also shaped, pressured, revered for a role he never chose. In silence, his gaze changed. He began to observe the world with deeper clarity. He saw human suffering, the brutality of war, the divisions between religions, between nations, between egos. And he asked, could salvation truly come from one man, from a messianic figure? Or was that just another form of dependence, another escape? Krishnamurti suffered a devastating loss in 1925 when his beloved brother Nitya died from illness. This was a turning point. A rupture. He realized that everything they had believed, the masters, the cosmic plans, the prophecies, had failed. There was no divine protection, no guaranteed future, only this moment and the pain of irreversible loss. And within that crack in the soul, something new emerged. Krishnamurti began to speak for himself. No manuscripts, no teachings, no dogma, just silence. And from silence, truth. In his lectures, he began to say, truth is a pathless land. No guru, no religion, no technique could take anyone to inner freedom. And then came the decision, perhaps the boldest spiritual act of the 20th century, to break from it all, to shatter the illusion, to refuse the throne. In 1929, in front of thousands of followers in the Netherlands, Krishnamurti took the stage as the supreme leader of the Order of the Star in the East. But instead of affirming his divine role, he spoke words that shocked the spiritual world. Truth is a pathless land, and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect. I do not want followers. He then dissolved the order. He returned all properties, funds, and structures meant to support him as a world teacher. He refused the throne, and more than that, he refused the very idea of spiritual authority. It was like watching a new Buddha leave the temple before even being crowned. The media was stunned. Many devotees were outraged. Others quietly understood. The rupture was complete. Krishnamurti would belong to no religion, no movement, no organization. He became a spiritual wanderer. For the next 6 decades, he traveled the world, from India to the Americas, from Europe to Japan, speaking with teachers, scientists, philosophers, monks, and students, always returning to one simple truth: inner freedom cannot be taught, it must be discovered. He did not want disciples, he wanted free human beings. Thought, he said, was the very root of suffering. The mind, conditioned by time, memory, and belief, had to observe itself, and through observation, transformation could begin. He met with thinkers like Aldous Huxley, David Bohm, and even members of the United Nations. But fame never touched him. He remained simple, clear, sharp, and every word was an invitation to a silent revolution. Even in his final years, well into his 90s, Krishnamurti still gave talks, looking into people's eyes and asking, "Are you truly observing what is, or only projecting what you want to see?" He offered no formulas, no techniques, no saviors. His method was raw, direct inquiry. He would say, "Observe your anger, your attachment, your loneliness, without judgment, without wanting to change. Just observe." And in that pure, ego-free observation, something new was born, something untouched by tradition. Krishnamurti died in 1986 in the United States. He left no successors, no disciples, no movement. His books, his lectures, and his videos continue to be studied, not as sacred doctrine, but as living questions. His image remains enigmatic, a man who could have been a messiah, but chose to be a mirror, and perhaps that is where his greatness lies. By refusing the throne, he pointed to the throne within each of us, a silent space without intermediaries, where truth is not a conclusion, but a presence. He once said, "When you are free from all authority, the true individual is born, and that individual is the one who can transform the world." Krishnamurti didn't create a new path, he dissolved all paths, and in the heart of that silence, he lit a flame that still burns, not in temples, not in sacred books, but in the eyes of those who dare to question everything.